Okay, what have we done so far? We have created two region controllers and we have split up the database and allowed streaming across. So whatever primary is feeding the secondary is actually pulling the database over gradually and keeping things consistent in between those two nodes. That's what allows you to have multiple region controllers. But now we need some sort of failover, and we also need some sort of load balancing and virtual interface so that we can use both servers. They're both there. You might as well load balance between the two. And the rack controllers are going to have some sort of virtual interface to be able to access both region controllers if they need to. So that's the next step. There's also an issue with bind. Bind will have issues with conflicting options because of, you can read it in here, because of it being on two servers. So we want to run these two commands on both servers. That will get rid of the conflict, and then you can restart bind. So that works. Make sure your controller's still working. That's good. Now, okay, more work. So we're going to load balance in between the two, and we're going to use HAproxy. It will allow us to access both region controllers, one database with the rack controllers, and it'll cycle in between the two servers so that you can utilize the hardware on both sides. So we're going to stop Apache on both nodes. We are going to disable Apache. And we're going to install HAproxy on both nodes. So what this is going to do is append some things to the HAproxy file. We don't need to do that. We're just going to edit it by hand on both. Because we really just need to add our database entries at the bottom of the file right here. And I have them all ready to go. So there we go. So I'll add it in there and then I'll tell you about it. Let's see. So the front end is MAAS, and it's going to be on, we're going to bind on 80. The back end database, that's the user for it. But we just have to add the server names. We need one for localhost, one for 150, one for 151, and this will allow us to round robin the two servers. So anytime you make a call to one of these, it'll round robin through and grab you one server or the other. So let's exit. And let's do the same thing on the secondary server. Okay, it can be exactly the same thing. And let's restart HAproxy. And I'm actually going to get a service status on HAproxy, because if you mess up that config file even a little, it will not start. Proxy MAAS has started. That's good. So it looks like we got the file right. Okay, go back to your MAAS server, hit refresh. See it jumped to 2? Means we're load balancing in between the two. Back to 1. Over to 2. So now we're using both region controller interfaces. It's jumping back and forth. That's pretty cool. So that's all fine and good. But now you need to be able to utilize these both as one. And what you have to do is set up a virtual interface for them to go to. So we're going to point our requests at a virtual interface. It will decide which server that it goes to. And that will also be how your rack controllers access the region controllers, so it can go to either one. So we need to set that up. Let's go back to our tutorial. So we're going to install Keep Alive. Now, Keep Alive is an HA type of environment. It's a little bit older software, but it's been used a lot. It's a lot simpler to set up than something like Heartbeat, or I can't remember the name of the one they use right now. But there's a lot more complicated versions of how to do this, but we're going to use Heartbeat for this because it's pretty easy to set up. We need to set up ModProbe. We need a ModProbe IPVS. This is the IP virtual server interface that comes with Linux. We just need to make sure it's there. We need to load it into the modules to make sure we can use IPVS. We need to... This is going to set IPv4 into a config file for Keep Alive that Keep Alive is going to use. You're going to have sudo. Actually, there's easier ways to do that. We're just going to switch to root. You can exit out of the root. It's just a setting that Keep Alive is going to use. Then we're going to restart. This is just a common utility that Linux uses. We need to restart it since we made changes. That's IPVS is part of this common utility. So now we're going to enter this command to put all this text into a Keep Alive config file. And this will just hit enter after you've pasted. This will give us a rough configuration file that we can start with. Do it on both servers. That's good. Now let's edit that file. Okay, so we're using HAproxy, so we need to uncomment the stuff for HAproxy. So uncomment this. This is searching on intervals and killing existing instances of HAproxy. This is for if you're using Apache 2. We are not. The state of your interface, I like to set both of them, both servers, to backup. That way, it's whoever comes up first is going to be the master. That way, in case somebody, so they don't step on each other. Priority is the same way. I like to set them both to 100 so they don't step on each other. That way you can bring the down node up and not worry about collision. Set a password for for keep alive. And then the tracking script, uncomment this one line. And then set your virtual IP. And this is what I did in that config file previously. So we set it to 155. It's going to be the same on both. It's just a fake IP that we can go to universally that will access both of these servers. Interface, we need to put in the interface name, the network interface name. And we're going to use these, so ENS33 is what we need in there. Let's go back in. Okay. So that's good for now. We're going to do more with this, but this will get us going. Let's go to the second server. And we'll edit this file. Again, HAproxy. Don't forget that last one down there. Set them both to backup. We'll get the interface here in a second. Priority 100 on both nodes. Set your password. You're using the HAproxy script. That's up at the top. That's what that script is up there at the top of this file. Set it to the same virtual IP. Let's close this and get our so on this one it is ENPS. Okay, let's go back in and add the interface name. Okay, I know we're moving fast, but we've got a lot to do. So this is for rack controllers. Now we will change the MAAS URL to use that. Actually, let's restart Keep Alive first on both machines. Okay. Now we'll set the region controllers to use. So in that local config set, in that file, we've already done this. I already put that 155 address in there when we were in there before, and we have restarted it. So 155 should now be valid to access both of those servers. So let's just type in the browser, and we're going to go to MAAS. There it is, 155. So let's go to nodes and controllers. You can see both of those and see we're on MAAS 1. Hit refresh. Hit refresh. We're still on 155. Hit refresh. There's MAAS 2, still on 155. There you go. There's a virtual IP. So we have redundancy. We're setting on a virtual IP. The database is on one node. We have 2 region controllers. Everything's going good. You can do this with Juju, by the way. I didn't want to do it for this, but I wanted to show you how to do it manually. So that's all fine and good. Now, what happens if you want to actually fail over?